Hey gang, it's Mad Matt. I'm back again with some unsolicited advice regarding our favorite children's card game. What am I on today? Well, my attorney advised me not to disclose that. But what deck am I playing today? Well, one sec. Yeah. Huh, huh. Good. You short. You know I can't do that. No, I need to refill the retainer. You don't need to remind me. Sorry guys, the deck, yeah. I'm playing Gishki Spright. Yeah, I know, Spright again. Can you make a video that's not Spright? I mean, I could, but does that mean I should? I think we really should be pointing the finger somewhere else. I can't help it that Konami decided to print the most versatile and consistent engine for every deck that runs any level 2 monsters, especially when those level 2 monsters have ridiculous synergy with the Spright engine, like our deck today. Also, especially when playing the deck means I get to tickle the Yugi Boomer part of my brain, and I get to play the Gishki cards, which includes cards that were printed from before I had gray hair on my head. But I promise, with my heart of hearts, that I will not make another Spright video for the rest of the year. Yes, I know it's December. So anyway, what is Gishki Spright? It's a deck that runs Gishki cards and Spright cards. But I guess that's kind of obvious. To kind of summarize what we're looking at without gameplay, it's a very consistent mid-rangey/control strategy that utilizes multiple searches and multiple extenders in order to go wide on the board, gain insane amounts of advantage, and use that advantage to put up strong pieces of interaction and endboard monsters. The advantage this deck can put together is actually off the charts. You having a full board and a full hand is not out of the realm of possibility with this deck. And that's all thanks to the fact that the old pieces of Gishki support that we're running were all printed in 2011 before Konami figured out the importance of printing cards with once per turns. So we get to loop a bunch of effects over and over. If you're not familiar with Gishki, they are part of the Duel terminal lore, which I'm not the type of nerd to care or know anything about that lore. Kudos to you if you are. I'm more the type of nerd to put up hour-long manifestos on pseudo-rogue tier decks, but Gishki is a water monster-based ritual summon archetype with a couple of unique gimmicks. We won't get into every gimmick, but the first one that we're going to look at is they have multiple ritual monsters with stars ranging from 4 all the way to 10, and instead of each of them having their own unique ritual spell, you can ritual summon them all using the variety of Gishki ritual spells that are available. One of their other unique gimmicks are in particular Gishki Shadow and Vision, which you can both see in our current deck list, and we'll go over both of them shortly. But first, can we all just collectively agree, as a community, how god-awful ritual summoning is as a mechanic? Not only do you need the ritual monster in hand, you also need the ritual spell, and then you need monsters with stars to tribute to summon that ritual monster. You go -2 at best to put up some big stupid dingus that's just gonna get outed the second it touches the board. I can't believe some ritual monsters have been printed, and Konami not recognizing just how absolutely trash they are as a card. Except Crab Turtle, this boy is unbelievably base. 2,550 stat line, actually insane. But back to Shadow and Vision, who are both made to kind of alleviate some of the issues with ritual summoning as a mechanic. You can discard Shadow to add a Gishki ritual spell to your hand, or you can discard Vision to add a Gishki ritual monster to your hand. So they work as, fantastic hash bait, but also, more importantly, it's just a solid way to search the cards you need to actually complete a ritual summon. Also, please note, neither of those searches are once per turn on either Shadow or Vision. On top of that, despite being only 4 or 2 stars, you can use Shadow or Vision as the entire tribute for a Gishki ritual monster, even the level 10s. This helps resolve a lot of the ritual issues like, oh, I found my ritual spell but not the monster, don't worry, Vision's got us, or oh, I don't have the spell and a ritual monster but nothing to tribute, oh, not to worry, I'll just sack an extra Shadow or Vision. So in order to make up for the ease Gishki had setting up their ritual summons, the effects they gave the actual ritual monsters are unbelievably mid. I mean, Goose Crockett and Mine August are a little busted being able to hand rip and set up FTKs, but that's another story for another time. But can you imagine spending 2 cards to summon a 2,700 attack inexperienced spy? Zeal Gigas was kind of sick, and as you still know, air quotes, playable, and was actually strong in release. I played a Zeal Gigas deck back in 2013, so I have fun, super boomer, super nostalgic memories of him, but we're getting unbelievably sidetracked. Yes, Gishki had some cool gimmicks, but they would definitely not even be close to playable today. Unless, of course, Konami decided to throw them a metaphorical bone and print some actual custom card level legacy support for the archetype. And oh look, they did just exactly that. On top of that, they decided to make one of them a level 2 monster. And you know how much I love level 2 monsters. But let's go ahead and take a look at this guy, Gishki Grimness. So first off the bat, he has the text on Shadow and Vision that he can use for the entire tribute of our ritual summon. That's fantastic. Very useful to us. Let's see what else. Oh, on normal or special summon 1 Gishki monster from your deck. Yeah, they gave Gishki Gishki a tour guide, and I mean, it's even better than tour guide. It's going to be on special summon too, and the only sort of restriction is we can only declare attacks with ritual monsters until the end of the turn, which I mean, if we're going first, cool, whatever. Also, as my astute viewers can probably see, that monster that's summoned by the effect of Grimness does not have their effect negated. We are on 3 copies of Grimness, as he is our main play starter and combo enabler, and you will see him in all of the combo lines. But that brings us right into who we will be summoning with Grimness. That is going to be Gishki Abyss, whom I briefly went over before. He's a Gishki Stratos of sorts, where on summon Abyss will search and add another Gishki monster to our hand, which, as I said before, Grimness does not negate the effect, so we're turning our single Grimness into an incredible +2 for us when you include the Abyss search after Abyss gets summoned. And red alert, Grimness and Abyss are both level 2. That's 2 level 2 monsters on the board. Repeat, 2 level 2 monsters on board. Sound the Spright alarm. But before we get into that, what if I also told you that Gishki Abyss wasn't a once per turn? So if we could get him engraved somehow, but I don't know, linking him off for something like a Spright Elf, and that if we had some sort of way to revive that same Gishki Abyss with someone like, I don't know, the same Spright Elf he literally just summoned, we could revive Abyss and then search again. And depending on our hand, we could use those searches to find Shadow and Vision, and then convert those pluses into the Gishki Ritual Legacy support monster, Eevee Gishki Naramanis. Naramanis is a 10-star water ritual monster with the always respectable 3000 attack stat line that on ritual summon can special summon any water monster in your grave. So great extension, but also Naramanis is a great end board piece, as well on board you can send a water ritual monster back to your hand, e.g. itself, and then negate the activation of a monster effect, and spin that monster back into the deck. You can easily see how we can take advantage of all that, and in the combo portion we'll go over setting that up. You're probably putting the pieces together on how nutty Gishki Grimness is, which that's great, we all love broken legacy support, but we need to actually find that legacy support. Well, I guess Konami was feeling like beyond generous and also gave Gishki an in-archetype Rhoda with Focus Aquamir. Focus Aquamir can search any Gishki monster. Focus Aquamir search is also not once per turn. But because we want to pretty much find Grimness in any opening hand, we'll typically use Focus Aquamir to search out Grimness. And because of that, we're on 3 copies. Focus Aquamir even has a separate mildly beneficial effect in grave. At the end phase, if you control a water ritual monster, you can banish Focus Aquamir and then set an Aquamir spell or trap directly from the deck. Because of that, we're on the 1-of Soft Garnet Aquamir Illusion. It's not the most exciting card out there, but it's decent as just an extra piece of interruption we get to set up, where this trap card allows you to special summon 1 Gishki ritual monster from your hand, but then return it to the hand at the end phase. Well, if you recall Naramanis' effect, when she negates an opponent's monster effect, she's going to return herself to hand. So from there, we can then use that illusion to instantly put Naramanis back onto the board, and from there we can then negate another monster effect from our opponent with Naramanis, as Naramanis' effect negation is a soft once per turn. So the Gishki portion of the deck gives Spright access to a new powerful interruption tool with Naramanis, but also a powerful engine of level 2 bodies thanks to Grimness putting bodies on the board. I mean, in my last video, I was just using Deep Sea Diva just to put extra level 2 bodies on board, and Grimness does that and then some, because unlike Diva, his summon is not limited to only like the normal summon. Because if you don't open Grimness, you can special summon him out from the deck thanks to Gigantic Spright, and then that will trigger his effect that way. Fortunately, not everything is peaches and cream with this deck, as there is some unfortunate lines of text on the bottom of Gigantic Spright and Spright Starter. After you've used either of these, you're locked into level, rank, and link 2 monsters for the remainder of the turn, and unfortunately Naramanis has at least 2 more stars than a level 2 monster, so after you've used Gigantic, you won't be able to ritual summon. So just a little bit of unfortunate anti-synergy with the deck, but it does set us up for a nice play with Naramanis on the follow-up turn. But despite that, if we go Gigantic, we're still more than likely able to set up a powerful board, as, you know, it's just a typical Spright end board thanks to Blue Jet and Starter, and then we can go to cards like Elf, IP Masquerena, Carrot and Red, and those alone might not like blow the opponent completely out of the game, but it'll probably keep you from getting OTK'd or closed out of the game, and then you can come back out with the crackback with all the cards you had to hand. But we'll get into all that in the combo portion of the video. For Gishki cards I didn't go over, the 2 ritual spells, I'm running 1 standard Aquamir and then 1 Necromir. Both are searchable by Shadow, both serve somewhat different purposes. Aquamir is pretty fantastic. It's a pretty standard ritual spell, but in grave you can return a Gishki ritual monster to hand and then shuffle Aquamir back into the deck. The best way to take advantage of that is you're going to use a second copy of Naramanis as the tribute for the copy of Naramanis that you're trying to summon, and that's pretty easy to set up with Vision and Shadow, and then you can add that copy of Naramanis that went back into the grave to hand by sending Aquamir back into the deck. Just a lot of cool plays you can make with Aquamir, and it just ends up conserving a lot of resources, which is very nice for a ritual deck in particular. Necromir is cool for the fact that you can tribute an opponent's monster as the entire cost. Stars don't matter, feel free to tribute an XYZ or a Link monster. Hence Necromir becomes useful when going second for board breaking. The only downside is it will cost you 3,000 life points to make that play, which, I mean, you've probably heard someone say the only life point that matters is the last one, but 3,000 is not really chump change. But for removal that powerful, that also puts an extremely strong monster on the side of the board, it's definitely worth that cost. So Gishki's kind of the meat and potatoes of this deck. How about the bread and butter, the Spright cards? For Spright that we're running, it doesn't get more standard. 2 blue, 1 jet, 1 red, 1 carrot, 2 starter, 1 smashers. You'll see how they all fit together in the combo portion. I should maybe up red or carrot to 2 copies for follow-up, but face for this deck is pretty tight. We're not running the finisher card Gamma Burst because of the anti-synergy with the Grimness Ritual Monster attack lock, which you can play around, but also generally thanks to Naramontis' 3000 attack body, we don't have too hard of a time pushing for lethal with this deck. For extra deck Sprites, also standard, 2 elf, 2 gigantic, 1 sprint. Honestly not sure why I'm on the sprint, he never came up for me once, I should probably cut him. I know the ratios on this deck look jank as hell, we're on so many 2-ofs, even though it looks weird, it actually ends up feeling and mostly working out perfects for us with the way the searching and combos pan out. And these are cards you don't necessarily want to see on our open hand, but we don't hate to see them on our open hand. But I think if you play this deck, you'll quickly see what I mean. For non-engine, I don't know, we'll call this the appetizer portion of this deck, because I'm putting these cards on the deck before I even start with the main portion of the deck building. Between the Gishki and Spright, the main deck is honestly pretty tight, especially after we put in the absolute staples, 3 Maxi, 3 Ash, 2 Called By, 2 Fenrir. So just to round it out, we're also on 3 Imperm, and then I chose to run 2 triple tacks. There is some light flexibility here, so feel free to play around with that as you want to. For extra deck, we didn't go over, it's all pretty standard. Skycav and Downerd for Zeus plays, Soul Sweeper for removal and closing games, IP Masq go into Eruption like Unicorn, Avermax, or Underworld Goddess. The deck can generally put a million monsters on board, so IP into a more than 2-mana Apollo is definitely a possibility. I don't think Apollo is necessarily that strong right now, but let's just go ahead and switch out Sprint for that. I mean, Sprint, honestly really does nothing for the deck. Is that too many Link 4s? Nah, let's not think about it. I also found in games that my opponents would pass back to me and I would still have a lot of material on board, so I ended up putting access code Talker in as a way to help close out games, and it came up a couple of times, so I ended up being a fan of it, but you could probably definitely cut him if you want to. Last one I didn't go over, Herald of Pure Light. I'll get more into it in the final thoughts portion of this deck, but this deck may be gas, but it burns it up so goddamn fast you'll quickly find your tank on empty. Aquamirror can be recycled, but it goes back into the deck, and if we've used up all our shadows, we could be in trouble, but Herald of Pure Light is in here to just recover a shadow, and then we could try to utilize Naramontis at least one more time. So just a useful way to recover resources that can come up occasionally with this deck. That's most of everything I have to say about the deck. Next, we'll go over the combo portion. I have some duels to show the deck in action, and then I'll give you some final thoughts on the deck. With that, let's see what the deck can do. The combos for this deck can be very hand dependent, and can also be somewhat preference dependent. You kind of need to get a feel for what you need to search, whether that's Shadow or Vision, or maybe even something else entirely, and who you should be tributing for Naramontis and when, just in order to get the most bang for your buck. The Spright portions of the combo aren't complicated, just be careful with the level 2 lock. As long as you keep those things in mind, you should be fine, but let's go ahead and get into the combos. So the first combo we're going to be going over is going to be one of our stronger end boards. It is a 2-card combo. It's going to require Grimness, or as you can see in our hand, that is focused Aquamirror because we're going to be using it to search Grimness, and then one piece of the ritual portion of the deck. That can either be the ritual monster itself, or Shadow or Vision. So go ahead and activate Focused Aquamirror, and then we're going to search out Grimness, normal summon Grimness, and you'll use that to special summon Abyss. Abyss's effect will trigger on summon, go ahead and activate that, and you search out Shadow or Vision. It's going to depend on what is in your hand, on what you need to search. You'll have to get a feel for it. But at this point, you want to link these two lots, go into Spright Elf, activate Elf, and you want to bring back Abyss, because he does not have that once per turn. He will trigger again. So go ahead and activate the effect again. And depending on which one you search first, you'll search the opposite of it. So we search Shadow first, this time we'll search Vision. Then we'll go ahead and activate their effects, activate Shadow. We want to search out Aquamirror going first, because we don't want to be sending any life points. And then we'll activate Vision, and we'll search out our other Naramontis. Now we'll use Aquamirror, activate it, and we will tribute the Naramontis in hand to special summon the other Naramontis, and you'll see why momentarily. So usually I'll summon him to one of our elf zones just to show she also becomes untargetable. Naramontis' effect will trigger, and at this point I usually bring back the level 2 monster just so we can exceed those off into Gigantic. Could have done Grimness, he's also level 2, doesn't really make that big of a difference. So you'll exceed those both off into Gigantic, activate Gigantic, you'll usually detach Abyss. And from here we want to get to our Spright line, so we'll go ahead and special summon Spright Blue. That'll trigger Spright Blue. Blue will search out Jet. Special summon out our 1 copy of Jet. activate Jet, and just ignore that we already had Starter in hand. We'll get Starter because we had that Starter, probably just Smash instead, but that's beside the point. Just trying to show the line. And from here, you will link these two off for IP Mask. And then activate Starter. And then typically since I already effect monster effect negate on board with Narrow Mana, so I usually get Carrot. And then last thing, before we go to our end phase, we'll activate Aquamirror and Graves, send it back into the deck to add Narrow Manas back to hand. Just conserve some resources. And then we will go to our end phase, and we can trigger Focus Aquamirror's Graveyard effect because we have a Water Ritual monster on board, and we could set Aquamirror Illusion just as extra interruption for our opponent's turn. So pretty decent end board. So we have a monster effect negate from Narrow Manas, and then we can trigger it again by resummoning it with the illusion that's set. And then we also have Carrot for a spell and trap negate. Then we have IP Mask to go into like an Aver Max to put up towers, or like a Unicorn to spin something back. We have some options. And then we have Elf for a revive to bring back like Grimness to get Abyss again, to get more searching, going on to put more bodies on the board, or just bring back a Spright to get some more Spright search. A lot of options available to you. Alright, so this version of the combo is going to end on a similar end board. You need to start with Grimness and then Blue in hand. So in this case, we had Focus Aquamirror, so we use that, search out Grimness. From here, we'll normal summon Grimness, activate the effect. And of course, you're going to want to get Abyss. It's going to trigger Abyss effect, activate the effect. Get Shadow or Vision, doesn't matter. We're going to get the other one in a moment. Well, we have level 2 bodies on board. Go ahead and special summon that Blue. Activate Blue, search out Jet. You're going to make sure you keep Grimness on board, because as you notice, we didn't open any other ritual cards in our hand, but we still are going to be able to get a Narrow Manas as part of our end board. So link off Blue and Abyss to go into Spright Elf. Now we're going to go ahead and activate Elf's effect. We'll get back Abyss. Activate Abyss effect. We're going to get Vision because we searched Shadow last time. Now we'll go ahead and activate their effects respectively. Search out Narrow Manas. And search out Aquamirror. I will just go ahead and special summon Spright Jet here. Activate that, get Starter. And from here, activate Aquamirror. And remember that Grimness can be used for the entire tribute, so we'll tribute off Grimness, and then I usually put Narrow Manas in the Elf zone just so we also get that non-targeting protection. And it still leaves us with 2 level 2 bodies on board. We also get to trigger Narrow Manas' effects, so typically we want to bring back a level 2 body here, just because that's most useful for going with the Spright cards. So now we want to go into Gigantic. And you either going to get red or carrot here. You can see I already have that red in hand, so it's just going to be your preference here. And then I kind of mess up zones here, which you'll see in a second. So activate Gigantic, and we'll special summon that carrot. Because there's not really anyone else better to search here that's going to get a summon, so we might as well get a negate. And I accidentally filled up my Elf's link arrow, so I'll have to link off that carrot. We could have left carrot on the board and used Gigantic as part of the material. But it's not that bad keeping Gigantic, because that means our carrot or red negate is going to destroy the target. From here, you would either Starter for the red or carrot, but because we already had red in hand, we just go ahead and special summon that red. And we'll go to our end phase, and so we use Focus Aquamirror, and we have a Ritual Monster on board. We will get to search out the trap cards. We'll go ahead and activate that at the end phase, and we will set Illusion and pass it off to the opponent. Alright, so this combo is similar to our last one, but this is when you didn't open any portions of the ritual pieces of our deck, but we can still normal summon Grimness. So we went and activated Focus Aquamirror, search out Grimness, normal summon Grimness, activate the effect. We still want to special summon Abyss because we do want a plus when we can. We'll use Abyss, we'll search out Shadow or Vision, we'll get the opposite one on our next search. You won't really need to use it now, because you won't be able to go into Narrow Manas this turn. But from here, we'll just go ahead and exceed into Gigantic Spright. We don't go to Elf yet because this play plays around Nibiru by going to the Gigantic earlier. So we'll go ahead and detach Abyss, and from here we'll go into Blue because we want to get into the Spright portion of our deck. Activate Blue. Blue's going to search out Jet. Special summon Jet. It's going to trigger Jet. Jet gets Starter. Now we'll link off 2 of them, go into Elf. Activate Elf. Bring back Abyss because we can trigger Abyss again, just for that extra search, and we'll most likely be able to summon Narrow Manas on our follow-up turn. And from here, we are going to get Vision because we searched Shadow last time. And then I'll link these 2 off to go into IP Mask. And then we still have Starter in hand. I usually prefer Carrot, but if you like red, you can get red here. It's just going to depend on what you prefer. So got Carrot, I usually put it in the Elf Zone to make it untargetable, and then set any of the other cards you have in your hand. Go to your end phase and pass it off. So this combo is when you open some sort of level 2 monster and then blue. It's also going to matter when like Grimness gets negated on his summon. You'll kind of see it. So normal summon Vision here. He'll special summon blue because of a level 2 monster on board. We already had Jet in hand. Normally we'd search Jet there. We'll just grab Carrot there. And then from here, we'll go ahead and special summon Jet. Activate Jet. Go ahead and grab Starter. Now we're going to overlay 2 of them to go in Gigantic. And we will activate Gigantic. And remember that Grimness is also on special summon, so we want to get Grimness here, not because we're going to be able to convert any of those resources into a ritual summon, but because we're getting searches and pluses, and we'll be able to use those cards on our follow-up turn. So we use Grimness, get out Abyss, search out Shadow or Vision, whatever you think might be most useful for you. You're going to be triggering it again anyway, so you'll link 2 off. Definitely want to link off Abyss, because Abyss is going to be bringing back the Elf, so link those into Elf, activate Elf, bring back Abyss. That'll trigger Abyss again. Get the opposite of whichever one you searched first. So we search Shadow. This time we'll get Vision. And then link those 2 off for IP Mask. Activate Starter. If we hadn't searched that Carrot, we could special summon the Carrot. With Starter, I mean, we can special summon the Carrot now anyway. We'll get red here, and you can kind of see what our end board looks like. So pretty similar from anything we had before. And then just the last one for us, this is when you just open Spright Starter. It's also full combo for us. Activate Spright Starter, get blue. Blue, search out Jet. And like I said before, Sprite combo is not that complicated, but just wanted to show it off for you here, just in case, I don't know, it's your first experience with it. So, because you have level 2, you can special summon Jet, and because we already used Starter, we'll go ahead and search out Smasher just as an extra piece of interruption. You could search out Starter if you want a little bit better follow-up on the next turn, so just kind of your preference. I like searching the Smashers there. From here, you'll overlay both of those to go in Gigantic, activate Gigantic, and you're going to special summon Grimness because he's going to put 2 more bodies on board, which is a great extension. And you'll even get a free search that you're not even able to use right now, but hey, maybe next turn. So Grimness, get Abyss, trigger Abyss, Abyss, search Shadow and Vision. Link them both off, go into Spright Elf. Activate Elf, bring back Abyss. Trigger Abyss again. Get Vision. Link those off for IP Mask. And then set Smashers and pass the turn. I also usually activate Vision and Shadow. This was just from way back in the day. I remember one turn I didn't do that, and the next turn my opponent summoned Thunder King Ryo. So from then on out, I'm always activating my Shadow and Vision, even though it gives information to my opponent. But it's not like they didn't have that information anyway. But that was the last combo I had for you to showcase the deck. I mean, there are a lot of other combos, like 3 or even 4 card combos that can happen. I don't think it's worth getting into with this video. It's more, I'm just trying to show you the basics of what you can accomplish with this deck, get you an idea for it, and as you get into it, you'll kind of get a feel for, oh, I can actually get 2 Naramanis on the board, because that is possible with certain hands with this deck. But if you think I missed anything in this combo portion or some like real obvious line that I'm missing, please let me know. You know, I'm always looking to improve. But up next, I have some duels to showcase the deck in action. So sit back and enjoy the duels. Alright, first duel up. Pretty nutty looking hand, especially with double focus Aquamirror opener. We're going to start with Fender. That's going to get the Ash Blossom response. Just because I get to full combo after this, I went ahead and sped it up. So, you know, went Grimness, Abyss, go into Elf. Abyss, Abyss get Vision, at the Naramanis, use Naramanis, tribute, special summon Naramanis, let's go ahead and trigger, Bring back Grimness, spin the Aquamirror back to deck, get Neremonus back to hand, go Gigantic, Blue, Jet for starter, go into IP Mask, activate the starter, get Carrot, pass it back to my opponent. Got quite a bit of interaction. We even got the Aquamirror illusion set, so full combo on a guy on ladder. Unfortunate for him, we're even going to throw out that maxi in the draw phase, pass it back over to him. Oh, it looks like he is on Resonator, so we're against the king himself. It's going to start with that Crimson Resonator, summon that Danger Mothman, go into Red Rising, activate the effect, and then we're going to Neremonus. We're going to spin that back to the extra deck, and then we're going to use Aquamirror Illusion immediately afterwards. And it looks like you can play through one interaction. So, I mean, we even still had a lot of gas of interaction left after that. So, you know, kind of feel a little bad beating up on the rogue decks, but a good game. Alright, next one up, let's see if it's a little bit more of a fight. Opponent starts with that Max C, and we win that Max C minigame with Called by the Grave, still in draw phase. But that's going to free us up to actually play the game, which is always great. So normal summon Grimness, that's going to eat an Ash Blossom. Luckily, we have the extension from there, so we'll special summon that Blue. Blue's going to get Jet, special summon Jet. That's going to get Starter. From here we'll go into who else but Gigantic. Activate the Gigantic. We're going to get Abyss, just get an Abyss search for free, and get Abyss in rotation. Link those off for Elf. Elf's also going to bring back Abyss, get one more search, why not? We can't use them this turn, but you know we can use them on the follow-up. Link them off for IP Mask, we still got Starter in hand, so we're going to activate that. We'll go ahead and grab Elf, we'll activate Vision, and Shadow just for their searches, because no, you never know, we're going to get Necromere, because we can probably use it against any monster opponent puts up on their board on their turn. So we're going to start out with Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherry for Nightmare Unicorn, so I can't IP Mask it, which I guess that's an interesting play. I'll try to go ahead and Elf here. He's got the Called by the Grave. That's going to trigger his Unicorn. We also bring back Grimness just to get a bunch of bodies on board. He's going to get our last Gigantic out of here, which I think is probably fine for it. It's going to activate the Theosis. We'll go ahead and Carrot that, negate that. We'll IP Mask now to go into Avermax, because I'm pretty sure he threatened Battle Phase. I really wish the replay showed that. He's going to go, the last card in hand was a Rise Heart, so he can at least go Shangiira and Royal Shangiira, and he's going to pass it back to us. Shouldn't be too tough of a board for us to break, especially with Necro Aquamirror. He's going to get Fenrir. First things first, we'll go ahead and Necro Aquamirror that Fenrir, get rid of his only piece of interaction for the Neremonus in hand. Activate that, we'll bring back Abyss, get another search, you know, just in case. Overlay both of these for Soul Sweeper. Sweep him out of here. We've got lethal damage on board. He scoops it up from there. Good game. Alright, 2 win coin flips, and I got to set up, and I won. So, what happens when we have to go second?
What do you do going second? Who the fuck asked that?
Well, we tried to drop Max C, and it's up against Labyrinth, so looks like we're not going to get too much out of it unless he just decides to special summon Lady Lab. So we can activate the field spell set 2 and pass it back to us. We can maybe do this. Blue off the top's great. It's an extra extender. So we can activate Vision. We'll get Neremonus here. We'll normal summon Abyss. We'll go ahead and search out Shadow. Go Blue. Blue, Jet for starter, not getting any interaction from my opponent. We'll go ahead and activate Shadow. We'll go ahead and activate Aquamirror here, Necromere actually, and he's going to get the Dimensional Barrier response. And he's going to call Ritual. That might be the first time in the history of this game. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. For me, he's going to go Ghastly Glitch, pop our guy. We still have extenders in hand with that red. We'll go Soul Sweeper here, just because we want to just beat over his monster here. And now, I've been including my deck list for like every Spright list. He hasn't come up in like months. We'll go downward into Zeus, get it all out of here. He's going to be on 3 cards. We're also going to set that Imperm. We'll go ahead and spin these back to deck. I get to stack my deck as well with that Necromere. And he's going to go ahead and start with Extrav. Pretty good for him, but we still have an activation from Zeus, so I'm not too worried about it, especially when I get to Imperm his Ariana. And with the Imperm, he's just going to scoop it up from there. So thank you, Zeus. Good game to my opponent, though. Alright, our hand is looking stacked. Let's go. Let's go ahead and start out with this Vision. We want to see what kind of interaction my opponent has, or eat it up, and it's going to get an Ash Blossom response. Nicely done. Well done, Grimness. And Grimness hits an Imperm. Pretty unfortunate. Luckily, we have the red, so we can at least special summon red. Overlay go into Gigantic, activate Gigantic. You know we're getting blue. Blue, Jet, Starter. How many times can I say it in a video? Not enough. Let's go. Link these both off for Elf. Activate Elf, bring back that red. Red's unfortunately not going to be here too long because I'd rather have the IP Mask on board. IP Mask, activate Starter, get Carrot, set that Imperm, pass back to my opponent. You know I toggled on, in draw phase, fire that Max C. We're just that good. And I went a little too hard on using my interaction here. I figured since I had red on board, I went ahead and fired my Imperm here, so I figured I could just use Imperm here for the Seam, and I thought that was good. And then he's got the Ascendant of Thunder. From here, I want to go into Unicorn. I don't want him to get into like a Barone situation, so I spin that back on top of the deck. From here I figured he's out of gas, even with 2 cards in hand, and he scoops it up from there. Good game. So even against a double negate hand trap from our opponent, we're still able to play through and put up a full board. So I mean, you can see some of the strengths this deck has. Alright, next one up, we went first again, and we've got maxq in blue, so that's like the ultimate Spright hand. He does hit us with that dimension shifter, so we'll fire the triple attack. I want to see what my kind of interaction my opponent has in his hand, so we'll go ahead and rip one. Looks like we're up against Floo, and then we'll go ahead and blue. Our combo is going to have to get a little weird here. So we get Grimness, we get Abyss. Abyss is going to search. We're going to get another Grimness to hand because I will fall up for next turn. We'll link these 2 off for IP masq, we'll activate Starter. We'll get red, and then we'll set the Smashers, and we'll pass it back to our opponent. So we've got a decent amount of interaction, especially against Floo. I pretty much just need to keep them from getting out of tributes. So we'll go ahead and red that summon. He's going to triple tactics thrust for a pot of P. Okay, I guess that's fine if he finds what he wants, or finds what he needs. Those are weird ones. He takes the Advent of Adventure, he goes and activates that, banishes 1 from hand, he gets mapped to hand. At this point we're going to activate IP masq, link these 2 off for Unicorn, we're going to get that map out of here after he's activated the effect. And he's going to go battle phase, can't beat over anything with just his Eaglin, pass it back to us. See what we find off the top. Blue is pretty much perfect, special summon blue. Blue will search out the last Spright in the deck, we'll get Carrot, we'll special summon that Carrot. We'll overlay both these back into Skycab, just get some damage on board, and then I want to put Zeus up on the board, because my opponent's on like 1 card, so if I can clear this board 1 more time, I probably have game. So from there we'll go downward into Zeus. I didn't go Grimness earlier on, because that would have locked me into only Ritual monsters being able to attack. I wanted to push for damage, and get Zeus out if I could. Once he sees that, and with just 1 card in hand, 1 card on the top, he knows he's not going to be able to beat through that, and he scoops it up. Good game though. Alright, winning coin flips left and right. Up first again. We'll go and start out with Abyss. He's going to respond with maxq. We do actually have follow-up, so we are going to hit that maxq with the called by. That will shut off maxq for my opponent's turn, but I do need to actually put something on the board. So we use Abyss, search out Grimness just for the follow-up turn. From here we'll go into blue. Get Jet's going to get Starter. Link these 2 off for Elf. Elf, revive Abyss just for that search. We'll go ahead and grab Shadow. Link 2 off for IP masq. And then go into Carrot. Set 1, activate Shadow, get Necromere just for the follow-up turn, pass it off to my opponent. He's going to start with that circular, looks like we're up against Mathmech, so we'll go ahead and special some of that red back onto the board because I know I'm going to want that. We'll go ahead and Smashers now, just because, you know, might as well get something out of here. From here he's got the Subtraction as an extender. Now he's going to go into Alimbertion, try to activate Alimbertion. We are 100% going to get that. Get Elf out of here because Elf's already used the effect. He's still got 2 cards in hand. Synapse Mining, that's a pretty good one. He's going to get Diameter, normal summon that Diameter, activate the effect. We're going to go into IP masq, go into Unicorn, and we're going to discard that maxq that we can't use. And we're going to spin Diameter back in the deck with nothing else to follow up with. We just had 1 piece of interaction for everything we needed to negate, and we won from there. So good game to my opponent. Alright, last duel I have for you. We got that Focus Aquamere. This is a pretty sick hand, and that eats the Ash Blossom. Unfortunate, but at least we have follow-up here. You know, we got the normal summon maxq, special summon blue, the classic, blue Jet Starter, overlay for Gigantic, get that Grimness, we could normal summon earlier, get that Abyss, we're just getting the search, we're getting set up for next turn. Link these 2 off for Elf, activate Starter, we'll get Carrot at this point, bring back Abyss, activate Abyss effect, get Shadow, we've got Shadow and Vision. Link off for IP masq, we've got a level 2 monster for Carrot to negate, and they'll go ahead and activate Shadow and Vision, just, you know, just in case. And then we'll set Smashers and Imperm. So this board is pretty sick. Let's see if my opponent can do it with 5 cards in hand. Starts with that Fenrir. Just in case it's Kash, we go ahead and Imperm now. And we'll go ahead and Elf now, just to get Grimness, just to get a bunch of bodies on board. That allows us to activate Abyss to get 1 more search. And then I'm pretty sure he threatened Battle Phase, so I went ahead and went into Avermax there. He's got the Ariana, so now I find out we're up against Lab. He's got the Cuckoo Clock and the Stovey Torby. So he's going to set Big Welcome Lab and allow him to activate Big Welcome Lab. Luckily, we can negate that with Carrot. We've got plenty of things to for Carrot. Then he's going to try to go into Dark. At this point, we're going to go ahead and Smashers that, get that out of here. That's pretty much everything he's got. Pass it back to us. We've got a very clean answer for that Fenrir. We'll go ahead and special summon red, tribute that Fenrir, get Naramanus. Activate the effect, sure, bring back Abyss, why not, get an extra search. Got lethal damage on board, just start swinging in with everything. And a good game to my opponent. That was the last duel I had for you, at least the ones that I recorded. Next up I have some final thoughts just to go over the deck, but I hope you enjoyed the duels. So with that, let's get into final thoughts. Well, I hope you enjoyed the duels and didn't, like, you know, have your eyes burned out of your skull watching any of my misplays that might be in there. But we're on to final thoughts. As you saw from the duels, as cool as all the Gishki stuff is, the plays you make are mostly just standard Spright plays. The Gishki cards just do a great job at help facilitating it. It is very cool just how well the two archetypes work together. Like, this isn't one of those mashups where they're just shoving two decks together and hoping for the best. It's honestly almost like they were designed to work together. For strengths, incredible card advantage generation. Basically every summon you make pluses you in some way. Grimness is honestly insane. The deck is highly consistent. We have 6 copies of our starter, and if we don't find them, we can still go into them thanks to Gigantic. Except for like exactly max C or some suboptimal hands, the deck does a pretty good job at playing through hand traps with access to multiple extenders. It's nice not losing to an Ash or Imperm on your normal summon. The deck can also put up pretty impressive boards thanks to Naramanus, Elf, Red Carrot, and IP Mask. I wouldn't say they're the craziest end boards out there. This deck doesn't have the highest ceiling I've ever seen. We're maybe on 2 to 3 pieces of interaction, but sometimes that's enough, especially when we have enough cards in hand on follow-up to make something happen when it gets passed back to us. For weaknesses, ritual cards are bricky. In fact, they're kind of bricky as hell, and they take up a good chunk of our main deck. The deck is pretty consistent, but has some extremely unique and absolutely unplayable hands. And even if you do find like the ritual portion of the deck and it's like actually playable, pretty much all you're going to be doing is just like summoning Naramanus Paths, and a 3000 attack monster that negates a monster effect and clears itself off the board is, you know, that's not the strongest end board out there. We really need to see the Spright portion of this deck or just get some way to access it via Gigantic. And there are hands where that isn't always possible. But even the best, most consistent decks out there can brick up. Also for weakness, I mean, everyone loves card advantage. I mean, I know I do, but if you draw 1,000 cards and none of those cards do anything or convert into anything, does card advantage really matter? And that can kind of be seen with this deck. Like, yes, Grimness is a +2 when he summons Abyss, but if you're like level 2 lock, you can't really use any of those cards that you just searched for anything until a follow-up turn. So it's like, did you add in those cards to hand? Does that even matter? And then that also gets into like some of the deck's other weaknesses, the obvious anti-synergies with things like the level 2 lock, obviously not ideal, or just the Grimness attack lock preventing you from closing out games, also not ideal. Another weakness present is that this deck will use up every drop in the tank very quickly. After you've done the Grimness Abyss search and summons a couple times, you've pretty much used up everything in the deck. And with Blue at 2 and Jet at 1, you do the Spright line once, it's basically done. If your opponent can play through your initial plays or just somehow otherwise take the game into a grind scenario, unless you have like exactly Spright Elf and can keep him on board to keep bringing out interruption, you might find yourself in trouble staying in the game. And then last week, just to kind of go over, unless we go first, the deck isn't great at playing into a board and competing against the top meta decks. You could definitely tech in some cards to help with that, but like I said earlier, space is tight and it's going to come at the cost of some other aspect of the deck that it has going for it. There's a reason this deck is not even sitting down in tier 3 on the Master Duel meta charts. I mean, it definitely has teeth, but I mean, that might be about all the deck has. But this is just me being overly harsh on the deck. The deck has some very obvious strengths and can make some great plays. But just know there are some issues present. For other cards to consider, I only have a couple. Deep Sea Diva is nice if you think the deck needs another normal summon. Just consider Diva. Diva has a lot of cool plays she can make and has great synergy with the Spright cards. Not as much with the Gishki cards, as unfortunately, Konami was smart for once. Gishki Abyss is a fish monster. Otherwise, Diva might be insane with the deck. But fun fact, she can summon Vision because Vision is a Sea Serpent, which could conceivably come up. But most of the time, Diva would just be a way to convert into a gigantic Spright off your normal summon, which, I mean, sometimes that's enough. I've seen some builds run Photo Mirror, and truth be told, you can obviously set up stronger boards when you don't have to pay a sacrificed monster to summon the ritual monster. But since we're summoning a 10-star monster, the life point cost from Photo Mirror is a nice casual 5,000 life points, and we're using that to set up an effect negate, which, I mean, I don't see as worth it, especially when we're most likely about to spend 1,000 to 1,200 life points on Spright Starter as well later on in the turn. And call me a coward overpowered, but I don't typically like losing the duel to just like a stiff breeze from just my own life point recklessness. Salvage is an interesting card to consider, as you can recover both vision and shadow from the grave with Salvage's effect, so you could easily convert that into a +2, and then of course that converts both of those into possibly another ritual summon. It's just if you don't have access to shadow and vision on the turn, I can see Salvage breaking up your hand, so I choose not to run it, but it can definitely be a strong card, so you might want to consider it. For the extra deck, there's some other things you could play around with. Like Pit Knight early is decently strong, and you can certainly utilize it, but the negation can be kind of hard to take advantage of, especially against a smart opponent. I also mentioned how closing games can be an issue when you're under the Grimness attack lock, but as Narummanos is a level 2 monster, and it isn't too difficult to get 2 Narummanos to stick to the board, you could run Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max as a way to close out games. As with 2 attacks from 3000 attack Narummanos, and then the 2000 burn from Gustav Max, that's a clean 8000 damage. But that's kind of a very particular setup, and I feel like you most likely have some other avenue of lethal available to you if you like think about it through, so I didn't think the extra deck spot was worth it for Gustav Max. Other than those cards, there may be some staples you prefer than the ones I have included. If you think there's something obvious I'm missing, please let me know below. In terms of fun, are you sick of Gigantic Blue, Jet Starter, and Elf yet? Have I beaten Spright into the ground yet? I mean, these are somewhat personal questions as to whether you're going to have fun with this deck. If you get enjoyment out of playing a competent and consistent deck, this deck is obviously for you. There's fun to be had, and there's some interesting plays to make, but most of it is pretty linear, and most likely involves you somehow ending with Spright Elf on your board with a couple pieces of interaction. In terms of price, unfortunately very expensive. If you don't have either the Spright staples, the Gishki staples, and the main deck and extra deck staples, you need 8 SRs for Gishki and 5 URs, you need 8 URs for Spright, and then you need a bunch of URs to round out the rest. I mean, that's kind of where we're at for decks on Master Duel at this point, but unless you really want to play Spright, I would not go out of my way to craft this. Not to say that doesn't mean the deck can win, but if crafting is a concern, you could probably get more bang for your buck elsewhere. If you do want to play Spright though, this deck is a fantastic version of it. This might be the best Spright variant right now. Live Twin might slightly edge it out, but even so, you're not going to be sitting anywhere close to even tier 2 with any version of Spright. But the deck is probably sitting on some cozy little seat besides tier 3, which honestly isn't the worst place to be, and is sometimes one of the most fun places to be. That's everything I've got. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to post them below. If you enjoyed the video or found any portion of it helpful, I greatly appreciate any likes or feedback. Sorry if my voice sounds funny, it's cold season. You know, I tried to push this off as long as I could, so sorry about the voice. But if you'd like to see more deck profiles and combo guides from me, be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to the channel. But with that, I will see you next time, friends.